of the Spirit. Well, we talked a couple of weeks ago about Robert Fulghum's book about all you need to know you learn in kindergarten, and about all the things we need to know for life. So I thought I'd take that a little step further this week and go with the purple and talk about some ideas I think of what we need to know when we're getting old. When we're old people. And you'll notice I don't pussy around and say things like golden agers and senior citizens. We're old people. You know? It's our resistance to these things that we want to, tidy it up and pretend it's not. It's resistance that causes things to persist, right? Keeps them in place. So I say, let's celebrate old. Tell the truth about who we are. Ken Dickwald, in his book Age Wave, says, the image of youth as vigorous, powerful, and sexy still has as its shadow an image of older people as incompetent, inflexible, wedded to the past, desexed, uncreative, poor, sick, and slow. That's what I said. And the thing is, when we pay attention to that, that becomes our reality. Just like when we were kids and we overheard people saying things about us, or we misinterpreted what somebody said to us or did to us, and we thought people were telling us we were stupid, ugly, and dumb, and unloving, right? And we used that, and we let them get in there in the heart of us, and we started acting stupid. And we thought of ourselves as ugly and became unloving. And then hopefully as we got into some spiritual awareness or some personal growth, consciousness studies, we realized that that was just programming. That we were born pure and innocent and perfect. And we looked at those ideas we had about our unworthiness and we said, this isn't true, or we put it aside. But we can do the same thing with the stuff they tell us about aging, right? We don't have to buy into it. So here's my advice. Keep thinking positive thoughts. And not just positive thoughts, but keep working on a positive background, a positive context for all of life. So that you're coming from positively. You don't have to go into positivity with your positive thinking. That context is already there. Deepak Chopra says, because it always remains capable of generating new mental impulses, which in turn generate new biological information, your awareness is much more powerful than any single thought you may have. Retaining this creative potential is the mark of non-aging. Giving it up in favor of habits, rituals, rigid beliefs, and outworn behavior is the mark of aging. None of us do that, right? But when he says that, when we keep our consciousness keeps creating not only thoughts, but it creates things, biological information. That's our bodies. Our bodies are renewing themselves moment by moment. I've heard anywhere from 11 months to 7 years, but our body is totally rebuilt. And what's rebuilding it is that consciousness that we're coming for. So we can continue to have gorgeous, healthy bodies. Next piece of advice is to be gentle with yourself. You know how it is when you come into this teaching and someone says, you create your own reality, and you say, oh, wow. Well, first of all, you say, I did not, they didn't. And then you say, wow, I create my own reality. This means I have some power in my life. Yippee! And you celebrate for a while, and then you get a cold. And then you say, oh, I'm a failure. I'm such a bad new thought student. Oh, look what I did to myself. No. Don't do that, okay? Don't do that. Because while it is true that we offer this advice in order to empower you, that yes, give you some mastery in your life, yes, you can make things better, we're also operating in a world where there's billions of other minds contributing to that same consciousness. So be gentle on yourself. Don't become your age. You ever talk to an elderly person and said, tell me about you, and they say, well, I'm 96. Don't do that, okay? Keep going for it. Anybody ever want to sort of say, oh, well, it's over now, guess that's it, I'm done. Keep going for it. Back in 1567, St. Francis of Sales said, it is not those who commit the least faults who are the most holy, but those who have the greatest courage, the greatest generosity, the greatest love, and who make the boldest efforts to overcome themselves and are not immoderately apprehensive of tripping. So it's like, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. Keep going for it, keep going for it. And then about 300 years later, a fellow named James Martineau, and this is beautifully poetic, he said, "A certain glorious sorrow must ever mingle with our life. All our actual is transcended by our possible. Our visionary faculty is an overmatch for our experience. Like the caged bird, we break ourselves against the bars of the finite with a wing that quivers for the infinite." Isn't that beautiful? Keep going for it. Let your reach exceed your grasp forever and ever and ever. No matter how old you are, keep having something out there. A couple of years ago, I married a pair of 82-year-olds. And the gentleman could hardly get his vows out. He was weeping at his good fortune. It had nothing to do with good fortune. They were both glorious people who were still out there going for it, still expecting good in their lives. And guess what? Next, my hint is keep doing God's work. Muhammad says, "A man's giving an alms one piece of silver in his lifetime is better for him than giving 100 when he's about to die." Do you get the magic in that? You know, when we're going to die, give it all away. It's meaningless, totally meaningless. But if you've only got one penny or one buck of it and you give it now, then it's meaningful. And you know, we can think that our bodies become less useful as we get older. We can even think that our minds become less useful as we get older. But I can't for a minute begin to think that my intention gets less powerful as I get older. That the gifts I give into society have less value. That the thoughts I think into the world are any less powerful than they were. So my body may weaken, my mind may weaken, but my intention, by God, it's in there. This is a big one, and I think about this so often. Remember Ann Landers? I think Ann Landers is still writing her. I'm sure she died 50 years ago, because I read her when I was 14. But, you know, it keeps recurring this theme. And my point is, don't be discouraged or hurt or judgmental because society's values change. And she gets letters all the time from grandmothers who knit a beautiful little sweater for their grandson, and then they went to visit, to babysit, and they found the sweater lying on the floor. Oh, all my work and my love, and nobody loved the whole thing. What we have to realize is, you know, when we were young, we had school clothes, and we had play clothes. When we came home from school, we hung up the school clothes, and we played in our play clothes, and we had a drawer of clothes. But today's kids have wardrobes of stylish, and they've never seen anybody knit. They don't know what's involved. You know, it's just another sweater. So I'm not saying don't knit, I'm not saying don't pour your heart into this, but don't get hurt when society has different values than you do. You know, I worked for a Japanese firm for a while, and they were always going on about the lack of work ethic that the young people have nowadays. And I hear people complain young people can't spell anymore, and they can't add up a column of figures, and they can't count back change. They don't need to. They can do stuff we didn't ever dream needed to be done, and they can do it. I mean, who calls their grandson when the computer needs fixing? That's right. So don't get stuck back there thinking the way we did it, about the values we had were necessarily better. Okay, here's my big hint. Are you ready for this one? Prepare for death. And I mean that. You know, right away we think negative stuff. But I don't mean, you know, right away when we say that, we think about, okay, make our will and keep our bills paid up to make our funeral arrangement. That's not what I mean. Because if I say to you, prepare for a trip to Hawaii, you'll do that. You know, you'll arrange a dog sitter, you'll stock the mail, you'll do whatever it is to look after the stuff you're leaving behind. But you will have great anticipation about where you're going. You'll go out and buy the tickets, you'll probably go shopping for new clothes, new sunglasses, put some film in the camera, probably buy a whole new digital camera. You'll do all those stuff to get ready for where you're going. And that's what I mean when I say prepare for death. Meditate on it. Think about what you think it might be. Consider the possibilities. You do some reading about what various people think. You know, it's like, what clothes are you going to wear when you go to meet your maker? I love that phrase, meet my maker. Because to me, maker is all that is, right? It's creation. And I'll be reunited with all of creation. So that's a little bit exciting. So am I going to wear shoes of lead or wings of glory? You know, think a little bit about where it is. And be prepared to die. Be prepared to die. when you go to sleep, that we actually go to different planes to solve our problems? I don't know. Maybe that's so. I've heard people say that Alzheimer's, when people have those lapses and seem to be somewhere else, some people think that they're actually going on to check out the next dimension a little bit. We have those little lapses. For me, at the moment, they're only momentary. I say I have a Teflon mind, nothing sticks. But it could also be in the Buddhist sense of non-attachment. Now, don't let things get stuck in our minds. Let the things go on. You know why women over 50 don't have babies, don't they? Because we put them down and forget where we left them. So, the first talk I heard back in 1979 in Redondo Beach, California, Dr. Frank Richelieu Center. And he told a true story about a woman he had been with that week, a member of the congregation. I think he said she was about 86. Good health. But she had phoned up all the members of her family that day to say thank you and goodbye. She decided it's time for her to die. Or make her transition, as we like to say euphemistically. And so she called Dr. Frank to be with her. And she did. She died. Just because she had decided it was time and she was ready. And I really think you can do that. I don't think you have to be sick in order to get there. I think we can live a joyful and full life until we decide it's time to just lay that body aside. Just like that. I collected a few little quotes about death that I like. Abraham Hasdai said, "The man of wisdom rejoices at the prospect of death when the soul is disenthralled from the body." Isn't that nice? I think of kids, my grandsons, when they first got Mario Brothers thing, talk about being enthralled hours and hours and hours. To disenthrall ourselves from our bodies. Because we're enthralled with this physical thing, aren't we? As a well-spent day brings happy sleep, so a life well used brings happy death. Leonardo da Vinci. And Jonathan Swift said, "It is impossible that anything so natural, so necessary, and so universal as death should ever have been designed by Providence as an evil to mankind." And then, of course, Percy Bysshe Shelley, "Peace, peace, he is not dead, he doth not sleep, he hath awakened from the dream of life." So, we're ready when we're ready, right? My next hint is forgive. Forgive. How do you spell relief? Forgive. As we reach an age of maturity, it's inevitable. All of us, we've been hurt, yes? Anybody not been hurt? Not been wronged? Anybody not wrong anybody? So we've all done it. This part of life, we've been wronged and we've wronged people. Let it go. Let it go. My mother always used to say, 50 years from now, who's even going to remember? So we may as well let it go now. And for me, forgiving isn't sort of saying, well, you're wrong, but in my great generosity and magnanimity, I'll, No. Forgiveness is saying, it's over. It has no effect on me. I have no judgment about it. It doesn't necessarily mean condoning anything. It just means letting it go. And the only way, of course, you can do that is through love. Remember that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Remember that as we get older. Kierkegaard said, "Affliction is able to drown out every earthly voice, but the voice of eternity within man it cannot drown out." So no matter how your physical body changes over the years, it is still beautiful to those who love you. Right? And as a matter of fact, I love to see signs of aging in my friends. Relieves the pressure on me. You say, oh look, her arms are flabby too, isn't that nice? And aren't mature hands beautiful? Aren't they? Thank you, Pen. They tell the story of a life. They tell the story of a life, of a character, of usefulness. And the next thing to remember is that usefulness is in the eye of the beholder. My mother, in the last few years of her life, her legs were weak, and so she spent a lot of time sitting in her chair with the TV on and feeling guilty, feeling not useful. And my mother was a knitter. And so she took up knitting little animals, about this big little stuffed animals. And when my daughter went to Costa Rica on a co-op for one summer assignment, she took with her a garbage bag full of these little animals that my daughter distributed to these children who didn't have a toy. And then my mom taking an animal or two with her in her purse, wherever she was in the mall or anything. And you know how little kids get in the mall? And my mom would just go up and with the mother's permission, she'd just give this kid a little toy. You know, our usefulness changes. Our bodies change. I had a friend who needed to move her house, and she was so frustrated that she couldn't pack the bags and lift things and organize, and she had to hire somebody to do that. He said that, you know, your body isn't supposed to do that anymore. You know, a baby's body is supposed to crawl. You're not supposed to crawl when you're a teenager. When you get to be an adult, you're not supposed to be a gangly teenager anymore. And when you get to be an old person, you're not supposed to run and lift and scrub and do things like that. You're supposed to direct other people how to do it. You're supposed to hire a young man to do it so he can feed his family. You know? Usefulness is in the eye of the beholder. We ourselves determine our usefulness. And one usefulness isn't any better than others. And even, you know, we say our bodies aren't as strong as they are. That's fine. Our minds, I won't say our minds aren't strong, but we tend to forget things, right? As Trudy said last week, I forgot where I put my house key. You looked everywhere for it. Finally, I remember. I don't have a house. But, you know, we forget things. And maybe that's so that our minds aren't so busy remembering things that maybe that's God's way of helping us be in the present, right? Maybe that's God's way of helping us be in the present. Getting near the end here, don't let society convince you that you are poor and needy, like we said at the beginning. Society wants to give us all sorts of stuff because we're old. Have you noticed that? They give us money just for staying alive in another month. That's cool. They give us cheap bus passes, cheap medical insurances, movies, and all that stuff. And you know what? If we look at that as reinforcement of an affirmation of our poverty and our neediness, it'll be so. I had a friend, he was in Rotary, and if you've ever been involved in Rotary, you know that when Rotary takes on a project, you're expected to participate in your time, and you're expected to contribute financially to it. And every time a project was announced, he would say, don't forget some of us are on fixed incomes. And those of us who were self-employed sort of said, geez, Ron, how do you get a fixed income these days? He was a retired ICMP officer. He had that pension, he had Canada pension, and his wife's pension. And he didn't see it as a guaranteed income. He saw it as a fixed income. And so he created a milieu of neediness for us. So I say, take all those things they want to give us, great. But don't buy into it that we're needy, because the reason they want to give us all those discounts and things is because they know that the seniors are the people with the most disposable income of all, and they want to get us into their stores to spend our money. That's the real reason they're giving us discounts. So don't let it convince you that you're needy. Remember, we're driving the economy. We're in charge here. So take the bus pass, take the discount, and get out there and change the world. I remember when I was talking about children, and I told you my friend had welcomed Benjamin into the world by saying, welcome to this place, you've come to the right place, and there are people here who will love you and support you in being all you've come to be. That's just as true at this other end of our lives. We are in the right place. We are always in the right place. We are here for a purpose and a reason. There's a lesson to be learned. And the people that are here with us right now are exactly the people to help us learn that lesson. So remember, we are all always in the right place. And my last bit of advice is, wear purple, spend your pension on brandy, sit on the pavement, gobble up samples, make up for the sobriety of your youth, and learn to spit.